Welcome to Herby at Heart, where herbalism dwells in the roots of our hearts, an intrinsic journey where we dwell on the deep and expand the marrow.
The marrow. We'll be expanding our marrow
The
today.
bone marrow.
I've expanded my marrow.
Yes. Yes, you did. Yeah, you cut yourself, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear. So today, whenever we want Tash to agree, we're asking for a gentle thumbs up. Okay. So welcome everybody. New month, new format, new life, new us.
Jazz hands. Yeah, we're trying out a new format because we can't take a plant every month.
Yeah.
It's ruined us.
Oh,
Hasn't
yes.
ruined us.
Talk for yourself.
It's developed us very deeply, but
exactly.
But it's been a much.
As we said in the last episode, it's time to mix it up a little bit because doing a proving every month is a very, very challenging task. And we decided to look out for our health as practitioners. It's also a very important thing to lead by example. And so we're only doing a plant episode every second month. And we are trying new formats. And this episode, you will have a beautiful, beautiful interview. And we're still going to talk about plants and we're still going to talk about herbalism and foraging. So don't worry about that.
Yeah.
It's going to be Herby.
So I guess our other format, the other months when we're not doing the plant, we're still going to interview someone and somewhere maybe. And that will be the show, really, the interview. And it'll be always someone who works with plants. Or that's the first idea anyway.
Exactly. So we're going to introduce you to amazing people who are also working with plants, especially like foraging and herbalism.
Yep.
And in our normal format or in our usual format, you know that we connect people with the plants that we're talking about or that we're proving. And sometimes they are not herbalists. And in these times, we focus on people who are actually working with plants in the
I guess you could say now we're going to connect you with people who work deeply with plants.
Yes. And I hope you are going to enjoy that. As always, feel free to connect with us on our socials, contact us. Even if you are somebody who has something interesting to say or who's a herbalist that we don't know, feel free to connect and talk to us. And we see how we can be in contact with
join
each other.
Forces, join plant forces, join our roots.
Join our roots, yeah. Expand the marrow.
Expand the marrow.
So, have fun. Enjoy this new format, a new episode with the beautiful, beautiful interview that you're going to hear about more in 3, 2, 1. Our interview partner today is Lieve Galle. She's an internationally respected herbalist and wild plant forager from Belgium. She's an international keynote speaker, author, and the host of one of Belgium's leading podcasts of foraging and herbalism. Her engaging talks and interviews connect traditional plant knowledge with modern environmental thinking, empowering people to connect with nature, food, and themselves. Her Dutch spoken podcast Wild Weaven has reached over 150,000 downloads, and English spoken podcast Wild is listened in 20 different countries, connecting a growing international community of people passionate about wild plant food, herbal wisdom, and ecological awareness. Through her keynotes, books, and recordings, Lieve invites the audience to rediscover the wonder and intelligence of the natural world and how it can inspire a more resilient plant-based future. As the founder of Wild Plant Forager and with over 20 years of experience in herbalism and wild plant education, she brings both modern insights and lived wisdom to every talk. So welcome, Lieve, to this beautiful interview.
I'm very excited.
Okay, so welcome, Lieve.
Thank you.
We're very, very happy to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time. First of all, I think my first question is because I have been listening to your podcast episodes, and you have a you have a Dutch-speaking podcast, right? Like in the Dutch language, and you have the English
Yes.
one, and I only can listen to the English one of obvious reasons. And I was wondering what was the impact? Like, why did you start the podcast?
Oh, good question. Well, the Dutch spoken podcast I started because, well, the idea came on a very long train ride from the north of the Netherlands to where I live in Belgium. And I just came back from teaching in the Netherlands, and the train was going through this landscape in the Netherlands and in Belgium. And I was thinking, oh, I know all of these wonderful people here, fellow herbalists, fellow foragers, people that are really doing similar work than mine, but everybody is doing it in their own special way, in their own personal way. And there is such a rich biodiversity in this field, and I want to share it with the world because yeah, people don't realize how many things you can do with plants and with herbs. So, and somehow that podcast became immensely popular, which I didn't even expect when I was beginning. I was a bit hesitant. I didn't really dare to make a podcast, but I still decided to do it anyway. And then after a while, I'm still doing that one, but then after a while, I started to think about how there are a lot of podcasts that are about herbalism, about Western herbalism, but usually they're from English-speaking countries, like from the United States, from Canada, from the United Kingdom. And it's wonderful. I'm really happy that these people keep the knowledge about plants alive. But what I missed was the voice of the rest of Europe. Like I thought, why do I never hear the voice of herbalism in Switzerland, in Slovenia, in Norway, in Portugal? You don't hear these voices. And so, yeah, I just started to contact people all around Europe and interview them and talk with them about their local traditions with plants, local dishes or local symbolical traditions that they have. Also, what their legal framework is, because
Yeah.
even within the European Union, every single member state has a different legal framework when it comes to things like herbalism or where it is allowed to forage. Um, and yes, it has been so far a really interesting journey to talk with everyone. And yes, I'm still doing the interviews, and it has taught me so much. And also, I think that we are very diverse, and of course, there is the language barrier. But I think if we unite as European herbalism, we can be such a strong voice because one thing that all my guests had in common, they were talking about how fast, at what a rapid rate, the herbal traditions are going extinct. And
Mm.
it's really quite alarming. And I think we can learn so much from one another if we just work together.
Mm.
Yeah, it's true.
Have you found that in most of the countries that it's like the regulations are getting harder and schools are getting shut down and people are not giving it further, or there's less access to herbalism and foraging?
Well, it goes two ways. Usually, when there are like herbalist schools, they are becoming more successful. So there's definitely a growing interest in herbalism and in plants in general. That is really something that we see. On the other hand, I also did like a broader survey for European herbalists, and I was really shocked to find out that there is a large part of people in Europe that do not have access to herbalist education in their mother tongue.
Mm.
So usually what people do is they go to the UK to study and then they come back to their country and they realize that, well, the legal framework is completely different, the local plants are completely different, and the local
Mm.
traditions are completely different. So, yeah, that is quite a challenge. And it's also demotivating a lot of people, I think, and yeah, discouraging them to actually practice. And often they are not allowed to practice. So I think it's both things. And what I see quite often is that local tradition are sometimes replaced by things that come over from the UK, but that's not necessarily, what the local history says. So
Mm.
usually, of course, this is a generalization. I haven't been speaking with every single herbalist in every single country, but what I see mostly in the Balkan countries, there is still a lot of traditions very much alive.
Mhm.
But yeah, in the rest of Europe, it's becoming quite challenging.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I wonder, a lot of the traditional herbalists, maybe like old witches, herbal ladies, or like farmers that have a lot of knowledge, they're not like, they don't really stand in the public eye. Like they're more like isolated. And so how do you get in contact with the people? How do you find these people that conserve or preserve the traditions in different countries in Europe?
It's been a challenge. It's been a
Uh-huh.
big challenge. It was so much harder than the Dutch spoken podcast because, yeah, I had a lot of connections there. I did not have these European connections. And, well, I asked around. I asked around in my Belgian network, in the network that I have in the Netherlands. I just asked around. Very often, the first contact was like an expat living in a certain country. And then I would ask this expat, well, do you know anyone local? So that was a thing. Also, I've been asking my previous guests for new contacts in other European countries, and that has kind of worked. But it's an ongoing challenge because, of course, there is a language barrier as well, which I found, especially in the German-speaking countries. People get very insecure about their English. They're actually,
Mm.
it's fine, but they think they speak rubbish English. And I don't expect people to speak perfect English. It's my third language, so I make mistakes all the time.
Mhm.
But it's nice to have this common language to talk with people, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, you're right. Sometimes these are not institutionalized herbalists or licensed herbalists, but they are just like farmers or people who got a lot of knowledge from their grandparents or so yeah.
Yeah.
So you're bringing plants or the world of plants through your podcast, but you also do it yourself. You teach, you also travel and go to festivals and talk about it. And there's this disconnect that you talk about, and also this blindness. Could you talk with us a little bit about that, or for our audience also, what this means and what it means to reconnect or put people back in nature?
Yeah, um I think a lot of people are not really aware of the disconnection of how far this has gone in their lives, but they do feel this emptiness. And this is what capitalism is trying to fill with materialism. This is why
Mm.
we are such a consuming species because of this emptiness. And it's something that I hear from my students quite a lot that they say, I've learned a lot about plants, but I've also learned about my place in the world. And I found this sense of belonging in the world because, of course, ever since we evolved as humans, the plants were already there. They have created the circumstances on Earth, the conditions on Earth, that we could evolve as what we are today. And people just don't realize it anymore. I mean, every breath that we take, our food, our medicine, our a lot of our basic needs are met by plants. And it's just we have co-evolved with plants. So the plants have always been there ever since our first breath. And yeah, people don't even think about plants anymore and they just have this plant blindness. They walk around, they go outside, and I can see, especially since COVID, because walking outside was one of the only things that was allowed to do. So a lot of people did that, and they suddenly, I think, they got this realization of, okay, this is a tree. I know it's a tree, but I don't know what species of a tree it is. These are some green plants in the hedgerow, but I have no idea what these plants are. Are they edible? Are they medicinal? What kind of caterpillar lives on this plant? Things like that. And yes, I think it's really like an enrichment of our life. And also what I feel, and I've experienced this myself when I was studying herbalism, and I think a lot of my students have similar experiences. It does not really feel like gaining new knowledge. It actually feels like remembering. And
Mm.
this is a logical thing because we always had this relation with plants. So it's really deep in our DNA. It's ingrained in who we are. Um, all of our ancestors knew exactly how to use these plants. So yeah, I think it's interesting to, like for instance, we know that a lot of people know more multinational logos than they know plants.
Mhm.
And that is just, when you think about it, it's crazy. I was talking with my
Horrible.
students yesterday and I said, Amazon is a river,
Mhm.
Apple is a piece of fruit. But somehow that's not the first thing we think about anymore when we hear those words. And that's pretty strange when you think
Mm.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, something's gone wrong there, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like what you say with that it's the what did you say the sentence you used was really nice. A remembering
Mhm.
Yeah.
of being with nature. So it's not because I always don't like this word disconnect, even though I use it. I like that idea better. I really love that vision or that image of that you just yeah coming back really.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a whole spiritual path, just remembering who we are and where we're coming from. So it's
yeah,
kind of the same thing. Yeah.
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 Exactly. It changes everything. Also because plants are tied to every single aspect of life.
Yeah.
So, like you can tell the whole story of the world through plants.
Yes.
Mm.
And yeah, it's a whole journey, and it teaches you about what our place really is in the ecosystem, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's nice. You mentioned like COVID and people going out, and like maybe for them it could have been a starting point to reconnect, to remember. Was there a starting point in your life? Was there like a specific moment where you got in touch with nature that changed your life to the way it is now?
Um, yeah, people have been asking me that. There was not like one aha moment, I think. Um, I grew up in the city.
Mhm.
Um, my parents, well, my mother really had a green thumb, and my father was a farmer's son. So they took us out to parks every weekend as a child, to the botanical garden. So the plants were like, always intertwined with our lives. Though there wasn't really mention of like edible wild plants or medicinal herbs or that, not really. But yeah, I think as most children, I love to make like witch's soup with mud and leaves. And then we had pet rabbits, and they were we would let them loose in the garden. It was like a garden with a brick wall around it, and I would just spend hours laying on my stomach and just observing them and watching them and see what they would eat, what they would nibble on, and it would really fascinate me. Um, yeah, and then as a teenager, I was a really weird, rebellious teenager, and I started to experiment with herbs. I remember I had a rash after pruning the English ivy in my father's garden,
Mm.
and I had this huge rash, and then somebody told me, "Hey, you can put calendula on that," and I did, and it just healed so fast, and I started to get this interest in herbs and making herbal tea, and then suddenly I saw. This was in the beginning years of the internet, so it was nothing like today. I saw this paper leaflet. I don't even remember where. I think it was in a store that was an advertisement for the herbalist school, which happened to be in the city where I lived.
Mhm.
And I thought immediately, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. Yeah, and it came in fact at a moment that I re was really feeling completely lost in life. I didn't know what my future would look like. I was like, I had no idea. I really was completely disoriented in life, and that was like the one thing I thought, this is what I'm going to do. And then all my friends and family said, this is something for you. Yeah, you should do this. So yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. I I wonder that just came to my mind. It's maybe a bit of a tricky question and a silly one, but do you have a favorite plant?
Oh, that's such a hard question.
I
It's
know,
like
I know.
asking for what is your favorite child?
But maybe,
What is your favorite
I
child? I
mean,
like that.
Yeah.
but we know there can be one. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But okay, I have a
Maybe
few
in your
favorites.
family.
Yes. I have a few favorites. One of them is thistle. I love thistle. I grew up in Thistle Street, actually. I
Oh,
lived there for
wow.
嗯
18 years of my life. I love thistles. I really, because everybody hates them. This is why I love them. They are like the rebels of the wild plants. I love to juice them. I love to like peel the stems before they flowers, and it's like a cucumber. It's very juicy, very soft, mild in flavor. I really, really like that. Very thirst quenching if you eat them. So yeah, I really like thistles. That's one thing. And also like field sorrel. I love field sorrel because I know this is a plant. It's a local dish. We would call it like green potatoes, and it's like just mashed potatoes with field sorrel. And I know because I've learned this dish from my father, and I know that my grandparents and my great parents made it because it grows where the old farm of the family was. Um, and so it's funny because every time I collect this sorrel, I feel as if my grandparents on my father's side, I never met them. They were already died when they were dead when I was born. But I feel them looking over my shoulders
嗯
whenever I collect it because I know they were collecting it in the wild. And that is like
Yeah,
a
sweet.
line throughout history. Just like, when you harvest like willow bark as a painkiller and you think, wow, prehistoric people already did
Mhm.
this. It's like
嗯
this connection with the generations of the past. And yeah, I really like, and the flavor for me from field sorrel and even other species of sorrel, I have like 5 different species of them in my garden.
Mhm.
It's like my ultimate comfort food. It's what I want to eat when I had a really hard day, and it just brings me so close to myself. So yeah, that's definitely a favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Is it just, do you mash the potato and then put it in there?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you
Ah,
actually you have two different cooking pots. One where you cook the potatoes, and then one where you cook the just in a small layer of water. You cook the sorrel, and then usually I put my blender in there, my immersion blender, um, which probably my ancestors didn't. Um, and then you just mix it with the potatoes and just add a
oh,
little bit of salt, and that's it.
so they go quite
Yeah.
green then. They must get a bit of
Sorry?
a greeny color, the
Yeah, yeah,
potatoes.
it's very
Yeah.
dark green. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. We'll have
And
to
I'm
try
sure
that.
it is an acquired taste. I remember we were eating this at home, and then a friend came over and they were like, "What is this dish?" But yeah, I grew up with it. So yeah,
Because it's
it's really
quite,
one of
must be
my
quite
favorites.
soury. It must have like a little sour,
Yeah, yeah.
soury.
Well,
It's
the
a
potatoes
something.
help because the
Oh,
potatoes are like a little bit more sweet flavored and
mm.
starchy, and it really helps to, yeah, the combination really helps.
Mm.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We'll have to try that.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
give that a go.
It's just growing so big in my garden, so I'm gonna get some
And
in
do
here.
that this afternoon.
Yeah.
That's lunch.
Yeah, and you have
Beautiful.
to get it before it flowers.
Uh-huh.
When
Yeah,
it
okay.
Yeah.
flowers, you can just cut it short at ground level, and then yeah, it will grow again, and then you can harvest it again. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You talk quite a lot about plants as a missing link. And in particular with foraging, what do you think is the missing part when it comes to nutrition? Because people are eating these plants
Mhm.
then. What is it that people are missing, and why do you think it's becoming bigger again within Europe? It's becoming almost trendy, or it is trendy. Let's
Mm.
say it is already
Yeah,
trendy.
yeah, it is. It
It
definitely
is,
yes
yeah.
is, I think. I think the missing link really comes to the vitamin and mineral contents.
Hmm.
I think what is happening in, well, it's different things. What is happening in agriculture is that, of course, it's most of our industrial agriculture and even our organic agriculture is based on annual plants.
Mm.
So that means we harvest them and we can only harvest them once. We have to disturb the soil again and then sow new ones. Um, and of course, we all know this. The result is soil erosion. So the nutrients, yeah, yeah, are removed from the soil, and that means like if you don't have any magnesium in the soil, the plants cannot absorb it. So we have a loss of nutrients there. And another thing is, of course, a lot of plants have been bred and cultivated to be different plants. Yeah, for instance, like if I buy, we are in May now, and if I buy a Belgian apple, that apple was harvested like August or September last year.
Mm.
It's almost a year old, but it still looks fresh. Of course, it's preserved in optimal circumstances. But like when you have raspberries in your garden and you pick them, you cannot put them in a box and keep them in the fridge for a couple of days. They will become moldy. But if you go to the supermarket, you can buy these raspberries. So these species are really cultivated to look fresh longer when they are not really fresh anymore. Um, but that often doesn't calculate nutrients, so you still have like loss of nutrients. And so yeah, this is the upside and the downside of eating like wild greens. You have to consume them right away because you cannot keep them for long. They wilt very easily. So yeah, so I think there different things are going on there. And yes, I also believe that, we are what we eat. We know of the whole wild biome project. So wild plants definitely, yeah, change our microbiome,
Mm.
which is logic because we have always, if you look at the history of mankind, then, agriculture is just, it's like a blink of an eye. Humans have existed for such a long time. And we've always been eating these plants, This is something that, so yes, I think, and sometimes people tell me, and I have experienced this myself, the more wild plants you eat, the more wild you become, really.
Mhm.
I have been talking about this thing with other foragers, and like when I have to do something really civil, like having a bank appointment or I don't know what, then I feel I have to cut down a little bit on the wild plants
Mm.
because I have to behave more civil and it feels more natural eating civilized food or something. I know it sounds a bit strange, but yeah, other foragers really know what I'm talking about. Because I strongly feel when you're eating a lot of wild plants, it also sharpens your senses.
Mm.
So I feel that whenever I move in nature, my senses are more open and I see more things, I hear more things. Yes, and of course, a forager looks with different eyes. And this comes gradually. I think this is a very interesting phenomenon for me because I'm not aware of it. So my students tell me, oh, we go out for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and we have like one basket of greens. You go out for 5 minutes and you come back with a bigger basket filled
Mm.
with greens. So how is it you can pick so fast and so efficient? But it's, of course, it's as with anything, practice makes perfect. It's because I have been doing this for such a long time. But I also start to look with different eyes because when you have been doing this for a longer time, and I've been doing this for 25 years, it's easier to point the exact moment at which you can harvest a herb for optimum like medicinal
Mhm.
value.
Mhm.
And it's maybe it's just a little bit in the scent of the plant or just the color that changes slightly. Things that the unpracticed eyes will not see, but you see it, you hear it, you sense it. So that's interesting. And yeah, the other part of your question, Tash, what was it again about it being a hipster thing or
Yeah, hips. Oh, I love the way you
popularity?
used. I love. I love the way you used hipster thing. The yeah, the
Yeah.
trendiness, the hipster, and I guess also on that question, like it has become trendy, and one side of that is great. Do you see what are the pros and cons you see in that after you've been doing it for such a long
Mm.
time and you've seen it through so many different uh yeah times,
Mm.
and now it's just splattered like it's everywhere. Everyone seems to
Mhm.
be a forager. Yeah, what are your concerns there, and also what do you see as in a positive light?
Yeah, I think in general, I remember when I had to yeah, we had to write like a big paper at the end of our herbalist school course. And I remember there was hardly any information on the internet. Just yeah, the internet was not what it was today. There was no social media. So I really had to go to the library. And it was hard to find information. Now the information is anywhere, but you just have to filter out what is the right information and what isn't.
Mhm.
And I think this is, I hear this amongst herbalists a lot that they have this frustration that influencers just post things that are like half true or not even precisely true. So there's a lot of misinformation, which can be dangerous.
Mhm.
I also see the consequences of artificial intelligence. Apparently, most herbal books and foraging books that you buy on Amazon are written by AI, so they're not written by
Mm,
humans anymore. And they make mistakes. They really make
mm,
mistakes. I can even see this in the into identification apps that my students use. I always look over their shoulder and sometimes I see 100% certainty that it's this plant. And I'm like, sorry, but I am 100% sure that it's not. And so I really think yeah, it can be dangerous because, yeah, you can, without knowing it, ingest a toxic plant.
Mhm.
And I think people underestimate the toxicity of plants. Or sometimes, they think it's either edible or it's either toxic, but there is a whole gray zone in between that. Some things are edible only when they're cooked, like elderberries. Other things are just like lesser celandine. You want to eat it before it starts to flower, or you have the proteanamonin, which is like a toxin. So yeah, I also see it with the students that come. They say to me, "Oh, I want to know as much as you know, but just in 1 year, I want to download everything that's in your head."
mm,
But it doesn't work like that. Building plant knowledge, it's a journey, it's a process. You will make mistakes. It's, you cannot replace like what took you 10 years to build knowledge. You cannot learn in 6 months. It's impossible. But there's this instant gratification thing that we have,
Yeah.
yeah, especially since social media. People just want this quick fix and this quick knowledge.
Yeah.
So, but on the other hand, I love it that it's becoming more popular. I remember, yeah, many years ago when I was foraging, nobody would ever talk to me or ask me what I was doing, or they would look at me and think, oh, that's a very strange person. Whereas now, when I'm like picking hawthorn berries, people come to me, hey, what are you doing? And what are you going to do with these berries? And can you eat them? And I think that's nice because it's about reconnecting also with the landscape and yeah, I think it's important because I think in times like these, this is really one of the diseases that people are so disconnected from, the plant world and nature.
Mm.
So yeah, so it's a double. I have double feelings
Mm.
about it.
Mm.
It has pros, it has cons definitely. But it's nice to see the growing interest and how people
Yeah.
are really seeing what plants can mean when they give them a space in their lives.
Yeah, and I think it's very important that people like you actually like are online, showing themselves out there with like proper education and the field experience. Huh? You need to be out
Mm.
there, connect with the plants, maybe talk, meditate with them, like to actually get in contact, and that we can get the knowledge from people like you. So I think your work is very very important. That everybody has a proc or can at least get a proper education. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
think one of the things is also that it helps if you can follow a plant throughout the whole growing year. A plant like mugwort, it has so many different
yes.
shapes of leaves depending on what season the plant is in or what stage of growth it is in. So it's, yeah, this
Yeah.
is not something you can learn in just one afternoon. Yeah,
No, you could spend a lifetime with just mugwort and
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the nice part, I think, also that you keep learning. I keep learning every
yes.
single day.
Yeah.
It never becomes boring. Yeah, there is always new things to learn from other people, from the plants
Yeah.
themselves, and that is, I love that. I love that part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. And what do you think? What is the way how we manage to balance the growing popularity that's happening right now with sustainability and biodiversity
Mm.
protection?
Yeah, that's a really very good question. What I see happening with my students, so I'm in the north of Belgium. It's very densely populated, it's very urbanized, so there is not a lot of green space. A lot of the green spaces are nature reservations, so you
Mm.
cannot pick anything there, which is good, I think.
Yeah.
What I see happening is people having a garden and making the garden a lot more wild, which is a very good thing to do for biodiversity. And what I also see is that a lot of people go in conversation with their local government, like with their city government, and ask for public foraging places,
Mm.
which is also very nice, I think. So in Belgium, it's probably the same in Germany. We have now this rather new tradition of planting trees when a child is born. So we have like these little birth forests everywhere, and then sometimes somebody says, "Hey, we could have a foraging area around this little forest."
Mm. Beautiful.
And you could even come foraging with your kids. So yeah, it's there are some options there. Sometimes like I see this happening in public parks sometimes, like city parks, that when they know there are some people foraging, that they tend to let the wild plants, yeah, they give them more space instead of just planting cultivated plants. So I think yeah, there are some options there. And also, and this is really important and a very important part for me because it's like such a core value of my work, this sustainability. Like I was harvesting thistles with my students yesterday, and I showed them like this was a very large thistle plant, and usually it has like one central flowering stalk. And what I showed them is like you can look at the small shoots, and if you cut the stem from a certain angle, it will make sure that a plant doesn't have one central flowering stalk, but make two or three flowering stalk,
Wow.
thus making more nectar for the bees and yeah, making more seeds so it can propagate. And I think this is really a part of foraging that is often forgotten. You can really, as I said before, we co-evolved with the plants. What I saw here in the garden and around here, we had some very old elderflower trees. And they were like bare twigs with just two or three leaves at the end of the twigs. And I thought, wow, they have never been pruned or
Mm.
harvested. And this is people have for ages, for making flutes, for making medicine, for so I really started to harvest from them. And now they are like flowering and making
Mm.
berries and in full leaves. So plants can benefit from foraging and from harvesting medicinal
Yeah,
plants, but you just have to know how to do it.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of a story from a herbalist or like a plant ethnobotanist here in Germany, Wolf-Dieter Stoll, that he says the only thing that we need to do is go out there and sing song to the nature to make it, yeah, to reconnect or like
Mm.
to for nature to heal. It's like the rose that needs to be looked at to be at its most beautiful stage, right? Like we need each other, and it's a very very big lesson.
Yes,
You're very right.
I
Yeah.
was with my students yesterday. I was talking about elderflower, and I said, I'm not going to start talking about the elderflower before you have smelled them. And you could just see, people smelling them, powdering their noses with the elderflower pollen and smiling. It's just everybody was smiling after they had
Mm.
smelled the flowers. And I thought, this is what plants do. I've not created the smile. It's really the
Mhm.
elderflower plant that did this. And yes, the singing. I'm just back from Herbfest, Portugal.
Mhm.
And I was so moved because they sing so much for their plants. They see like an we there was like a 2,000-year-old olive tree there, and they just
Wow.
started singing a song about olive trees to the tree, and I was
Ah,
so deeply moved, and I it made me realize, like, in my mother tongue, I know like one children's song about an apple tree, and that's
right.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know any
Mm.
songs in my mother tongue about plants. So one of my students is making songs now.
Cool.
So that's
Yeah.
really nice. I think we should, if we don't remember these songs, because I'm sure we had them,
Yes.
um, yeah, we just have to create new ones.
Yeah. 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 It's true. I
Yes.
just had a thought because, like, we were you talking before about the planting trees when a child is born. Have you ever experienced that you were following up on that tree and looked at the plants that were growing around the tree when, for example, treating the child that was born?
Sorry, can you repeat
Uh,
that question?
like if you plant a tree for a child and maybe you working with the parents or in a way that you're treating the child when it's sick, have you ever looked at something like that and the plants that are actually growing around the birth tree?
Okay, this is a really interesting question. However, we are not allowed to treat people in Belgium.
Ah, okay.
Which is,
Back to the
Yeah.
legal framework.
yeah,
Okay,
which is
yeah.
Yes.
probably quite a good
Yes.
question for you. How you
Yes.
actually like how do you then work in Belgium with as a herbalist? What?
We are allowed to teach, and that's it.
All right.
That's it. So that's what everybody does here. We teach.
Uh-huh.
And this is, yeah, of course, we can within our own family, we can, I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
if my husband has a cough or my children, don't feel so well, yes, of course, I can use the remedies that I know. But yeah, you're not allowed to treat people. This is a thing. And it's not
Okay.
only in Belgium, it's in a lot of European countries.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have this thingy as a naturopath Heilpraktiker here in Germany that gives us like this zone where we can interact, yeah, or act, yeah. But as a doctor, would you be able, like as a physician, are there physicians that work with plants in Belgium?
It's a good question. I don't know of a lot of doctors who work with plants. It would be frowned upon, really. Yeah,
Yeah,
you looked at something suspicious, I think,
yes.
especially by the government.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy because I was recently talking with a professor from Iran, a dermatologist, and he was working in a hospital, and he said, we for a lot of skin conditions we use only plants. And I
Wow.
thought, wow, that's unthinkable in
Uh-huh.
Belgium that you would go to a hospital and get treated with herbs. Yeah, this is not something that happens in Belgium,
Wow.
unfortunately.
But is there like an awareness in the pharmacies, for example, that if you look for something that you get like can get a tincture or something like that? Is that an option?
It depends on the pharmacist, I think. There are
Okay.
some, like in my hometown, Ghent, there is like one pharmacy that is really well known for their natural remedies, and they also make
Yeah.
some stuff themselves, but it's quite rare. So
Okay.
people come from far to this pharmacy. What they do have is like, so we do have some Belgian pharmaceutical herbal companies.
Hmm.
So, for instance, that if you feel nauseous, they have like ginger pills for you. So, yeah, this you can buy at a pharmacy, but yeah, it what happened actually is that the pharmaceutical things, the chemical pills against like car disease and seasickness, um, they used to be available without doctor's prescription,
Hmm.
and they have discontinued this. So now you need a doctor's prescription, and it's only since then that the herbal ginger pills became more of an option. So that the
Mm.
pharmacist tell you, hey, you can take this. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Wow, so it's very regulated.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, of course, we do have a large pharmaceutical industry in
Yeah.
Belgium. Well, actually, Germany does as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and it's crazy when you think about it because most of the resources, the raw material for making pharmaceutical medicine, comes only from two countries, China and India.
Hmm.
Whereas we have a large tradition of European herbalism that works with regenerative local resources.
Yes.
So it's actually when you think about building resiliency, herbal I think herbalism can tackle a lot of problems that today's world is facing. And I think especially in geopolitical instability, it's important to build this resilience.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Guess that's a good going to this next question. What do you think? What would your ideas of what they could learn? So, modern medicine, what they can learn from herbalists and some of these kind of dying arts, unfortunately. If, yeah, full stop. That's the question.
Yeah, I think a lot of things. One of the things is the individualized approach.
Mm.
Yeah, because now, and I think modern medicine realizes that in fact it's a bit strange that you give the same dosage of medication to like a 60-kilogram woman than to a man that weighs maybe twice as much.
Mm.
Yeah, it's different metabolism, it's different, and also, yeah, looking at the whole person. So, of course, in the medical field, we have all these specializations, which is good that we have, but sometimes we forget to zoom out and just to look at the whole person and not just a person, but everything that is surrounding it, like, stress, social relations, movement, nutrition, all of these things.
Mm.
That's one thing. And I think, of course, we have now the problem with resistance, not only to antibiotics, but also like anti-parasitical medication.
Mm.
Just the head lice shampoos that don't work anymore, but also for intestinal um, parasites. And I think it's a lot harder to build resistance when it comes to plants because it's
Yeah.
not just one single isolated compound, but it's a whole, there are so many different compounds in plants. And like if you look at India, they have the neem tree. It's
Mm.
been used for 6,000 of years. There is no resistance. So I think in these cases, our future really lies into the plant world.
Yeah.
And also, I found that a lot of people come to herbalism because they have a sensitive system and they have too many side effects with the medication, that the pharmaceutical medication that they get. So yeah, I think there's a lot that they can learn from herbalism.
I guess
Yeah,
plants can evolve with us as well, which is a medication can't do that. A human has to evolve that medication,
different
whereas,
adaptability,
the adaptability of the plant will evolve with us.
yeah,
Like the neem tree, I'm sure that's adapted over all that time it's been used
absolutely. Yes,
to kind of tweak the little things
yes,
when their
exactly.
resistance gets built, then it builds something else in it. And I think that's the magic of it. This working together, actually, which is
Yeah. I mean,
a
if you
beautiful
think
thing.
about it, isn't it like one of the miracles of life that exactly the substance that a plant makes, for instance, to defend itself is like something that can heal our body. This is
Yes.
wow. If you think about it, it's just mind-blowing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
it is.
Um, there's so many more questions I want to ask you, but we are a little bit limited on time. I was wondering something I was thinking about when listening to your podcast and to so many different opinions and cultural backgrounds and experience from all the countries. Did you find like a quintessence between like all of them, like something that connected them despite their differences?
I think it's love,
Oh,
actually.
I was just thinking that love of plants.
Yeah. It's because that surprises me every single time because in fact, all of these people for the podcasts, the English spoken podcast, these are strangers to me. We are strangers to one another. I have never met them before. Um, and we start talking about the plants, and it becomes this heart-to-heart conversation. It's really beautiful to see. Yeah, and I think it's also there is something else, but I'm thinking about what word I would use. I think it's empowerment. I would call it empowerment because um, they feel they can always, in any circumstance, come back to the plants, and they feel that they are supported and carried by the plants. Um, Even if the whole world is crumbling apart, they will always have the plants. And this is something I think they all feel very strongly about. And I identify with that as well. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So we sort of asked the question before. I think we have to finish, but we have that last question that we were talking about that we wanted to ask everyone. It's a little similar to what we already asked, but if you were a plant, which one would you be and why?
Ooh,
At this point in time.
really good question.
It's a little hard one.
Yeah, it's a tough choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think dandelion would be a good one because it never gives up. It always comes back and
Uh-huh.
it can travel without any CO2 emission to a different continent, which is really
Oh,
cool, I
True.
think.
oh, I love it.
That's true.
It's
Yeah.
also a great advice for the audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a double whammy. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much,
all the
Lieve.
work that you do. Thank you for inviting me.
That was lovely. So we had to leave quite immediately after the interview, so I'm recording this ending alone. As always, if you're looking for a one-on-one consultation, Feel free to contact us, visit us at Mommsenstraße 55 for herbalism, phytotherapy, homeopathy, family constellations, all these kind of things. As invitations for the month for this episode, we would like to invite you, of course, Tash's herbal year course is going on, sensory herbalism course, if you want to dig into that. Also, you can find my work of Matthias Berner Academy in the show notes. And we have 2 dates that we would really like to invite you. Tash and I, we're going to do a night or evening of family constellations. So if you're interested and looking for family constellation systems in Berlin in English-speaking language, the 24th of June is going to be our date this time. Workshop is going to happen at Nourished Berlin in Moos. Feel free to join us. And also there's going to be a blind proving for the next episode, which is going to be in July. On a Sunday, 26th of July. A beautiful possibility to dig into our next plant that we're gonna explore together without knowing what it is. So blind proving is the idea. You come over with us. We're gonna taste the herb, work with the herb, do a meditation, maybe even a little constellation there to find out the different aspects, planetary aspects, but also personal aspects, archetype aspects of a plant without knowing what that plant even is. So, feel free to join us there. Flyers and posts coming out soon. Find us on Instagram at Herby at Heart. And as always, Herby by heart, happy by nature. See you soon.